Well, tomorrow is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a time to honor survivors of residential schools, remember those who never made it home, and also reflect on how we can move forward together.
Yeah, beyond just words and acknowledgements, many leaders and businesses are asking how reconciliation can be woven into the way they operate every day. So joining us live now to take a look at what meaningful reconciliation in the workplace looks like is Jennifer Menard-Shand, founder and CEO of Staff Shop. Jennifer, good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming in. So tomorrow is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and I guess I want to start by asking you what the truth is behind the Indigenous people today, how they're living, and whether or not reconciliation, the steps toward it, has been in any way beneficial to that.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you for having me. I think it's important to remember that the majority of our Indigenous people are actually still in poverty, 73% without clean water, and child welfare is a big problem. And so sometimes remembering that as individuals and organizations kind of helps us sort out what we can do with the gifts and resources that we have to move things forward. And so the good news is we've come a long way. The calls to actions, the 94 calls to actions, I think there's about 13 or so that are completed. There's 40 that are underway, and of course a lot more that need to be done and worked on. But I think thinking about my grandmother, for example, who's probably smiling down from heaven, we've come a long way in the sense that I'm here today talking about this. And she couldn't imagine a world where that would have happened. And so,
does that give you hope, the pace that Canada is operating at? Does that give you hope, or is it not accelerated enough in your mind?
Well, I always speak from a place of love and forgiveness, and I'm pretty solutions focused and tend to focus on where we're going as opposed to where we've been. And so I am optimistic. I do see a lot of great things happening. And I think people are very intentional about how they want to do things as businesses and individuals. And that's what's important, is just, doing our part every day. And it's different for everyone because every community has a specific need. And out of the 634 First Nations across Canada, the majority are still in poverty. And so that's really the biggest barrier. It's the barrier to education, to employment. And so remembering that, I think, is...
Yeah, that's a very starking number. And, one of the 94 calls to action, number 92, mandates that Indigenous people have equitable access to corporate education, training, and, of course, job opportunities. With Staff Shop, you're helping pave that way and do that. However, how can other businesses incorporate reconciliation, especially places that might not have Indigenous staff?
Right. So my mentor, Holly Fortier, always said, many people ask, what more can we do for Indigenous people? And she always said, we're not a problem to be solved. What more can we learn from Indigenous people in order to then sort out how we can help? And so I think storytelling heals, just listening to stories, abandoning stereotypes. My mother, for example, was so afraid of stereotypes that I didn't find out I was First Nations Ojibwe until my teens.
Wow.
And so... there was just a lot of shame, and kind of, she was in the same boat as my grandmother. I think one of the things that my aunt had said to me is, my grandmother lived in a world where she said, no matter what you do, you'll always be an Indian. And so back to, how far we've come.
Right.
But I think as employers, if we focus on creating equal opportunities and just kind of removing some of those barriers, I think that that's one of the ways that we can move forward, because Indigenous people really want to compete based on their own merit, as opposed to just being given a handout. The majority of people I talk to, they want a hand up, not a handout. And so it's important to remember that. And
can you, you've launched a new hot sauce business.
Yes.
Can you talk about some of the barriers you faced or broke through, or what the challenges were like for you in particular?
So any Indigenous business or entrepreneur, I think especially female entrepreneurs, it takes a lot to get here. And so I would say, support Indigenous businesses. But for me, I was actually a little more fortunate because I got to incubate it within Staff Shop, my staffing, search and consulting firm. It was a pandemic passion project that's now turned into something I think scalable within retail stores. But some of the challenges, still hard to get access to financing, still hard to get that opportunity from corporates.
Get those meetings even in some cases?
Sometimes those cases, and we are in a good position now because a lot of the larger businesses are focusing on giving opportunities to diverse suppliers, especially certified Indigenous and women-owned diverse suppliers. So certify the businesses. And I think, it's just going to be hard to build the right team and the right formula to scale. And then especially with my focus being on Staff Shop and then the work that I do through Victim Services Toronto, there's a big focus on human trafficking and violence. Majority of Indigenous women and girls are disproportionately affected by that across Canada. So I tend to try to grow my businesses in order for them to give back to organizations like that.
Yeah, it's really incredible, some of the work that you're doing. Jennifer Menard-Shand, CEO of Staff Shop, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, great to meet you this morning, Jennifer. Thank you very much. Appreciate this.
Thank you.
Yeah.